So if you watch my recent video with 11 amps and one guitar, I mentioned that I had this 1967 Fender Super Reverb that I'd got a couple of months ago and had barely had a chance to use. And it's got to the end of a long week and I thought I just want to have a bit of fun. So I decided to get 6 different guitars, plug them into the Super Reverb and just really start to learn how this amp works. Now what I did was I went online and I sort of Googled, you know, what's a good setting for the Super Reverb, and I came across Stevie Ray Vaughan's common settings, which I decided to set it to. But here's one issue. The amp as a whole, as a combo, is not working perfectly. Something to do with the speakers, there's some weird noises. So what I've done is I've used a Fryette PS100 power station thing to be able to plug it into a 2x12 from 2Rock. So it's going to be a different Super Reverb sound today, which I'm interested to hear. And the PS100 is great because it allows you to even use a 2 ohm amp. So the Super Reverb is a 2 ohm amp and its cabinet would be 2 ohms, but the 2Rock is 8 ohms, but it can do the sort of thing with the, the different resistances. Right, I wanted to keep this as short and sweet as possible, so it was one setting for everything, because I want to see how different guitars basically cope with that. None of them have pedals except for the Jazzmaster, which I'm using a fuzz pedal, which I'll show you on screen at the time. But basically, look, it's just like a minute on each guitar. Just want to hear what they sound like and see how this old Super Reverb is doing. Let's kick it off with this gold SG. So this is my 1964 reissue SG. It doesn't have the stock custom buckers anymore. It's got some SB PAFs, that is some bare PAFs. They were made for another Les Paul I had, but I sold that, so I've put them in here. They're not a perfect match for this guitar because they were custom made literally for that other Les Paul. So I'm just waiting for some other PAFs to put in here from Sunbear that will suit this guitar perfectly. But what I find really interesting about this guitar, it's different from some SGs because it has the vibrola, it has the nylon saddles, so it gives it a different sound altogether. I really love the all gold TV gold finish on here. It's quite unusual. I've not seen many of these around. And this guitar is always great fun to play. I don't play it that often. I'm not naturally just someone who picks up an SG. Slightly odd positioning to play it. But when I do pick it up, I always just think, why am I not playing this more often? I think it's something to do with the SG shape. If I was stood up, I think it would be something I'd play more. Anyway, let's move on to a Telecaster. And we're going to start off with my Dakota Red Dale Wilson Masterbuilt Tele that I got recently. It's also got Sunbear pickups. His Telecaster pickups are fantastic. I have to do a video showing you the difference between the ones that came with it, which were also good, and the ones from Sunbear, which compared to any other Telecaster pickups are always more open sounding and have a great difference between a sort of more stratty neck almost and, you know, the sort of big Telecaster bridge sound. that guitar is a lot of fun. It's quite different to the 50s style Teles that I'm more used to playing. So that's based on like a 62, you know, it's got the rosewood and everything. It just doesn't feel like a normal, to me, normal sort of maple fretboard neck Tele. So I need to do a comparison of that as well. But yeah, again, I just think the amp is set pretty hot. Number 6 on here, and then using an attenuator allows it to pretty much overdrive itself, which is great. It's a little bit more nasal sounding. These settings are quite trebly, but I think they would cut through. That's probably why people use this setting. It would cut through in a mix really well. So I think we should straight away hear another Tele because it's quite different. It's a humbucker neck Tele, an HS. This is a Fender custom shop, not a master built. It is a 50s style one. I think they called it a 51. It's a limited edition thing. It's got a massive sounding Seymour Duncan pickup, a Seth Lover PAF in the neck. It's a little bit dark, but when you put it in the middle, it then sort of counteracts the bridge. And I really like the bridge pickup in here. It's really sort of proper Tele sounding. The more I play that guitar, the more I want to play it more and more. It's becoming one of the most sort of common guitars for me to pick up when I come in. It's comfortable. The neck is quite big, but not humongous. And it's got, you know, some shape to it. It's not just a baseball bat. I'll have to do a more in-depth video on it. But yeah, it's a great combination. If you haven't got, if you're looking for another guitar at some point soon, you haven't got a humbucker single Tele, it's one of the more versatile guitars. It basically allows you, you know, to have a bit of a Les Paul thing, but maybe in a more comfortable situation if you're not a Les Paul person. But yeah, I just love that brash and big Telecaster sound. Okay, something different. Well, a Les Paul, seeing as we were talking about one. This is my Les Paul Custom, and I decided to be a bit more gentle with this and rolled it back a bit and just had a bit more sort of melodic stuff come out. So it's taken me a bit of time to get used to that Les Paul Custom just physically, but in terms of playing it and the sound, I absolutely love it. It's really versatile, going from that sort of stuff to your more typical sort of Les Paul sounds. It can get really brash, but it can also, it has an out of phase middle position, which is the middle and the bridge pickups. I didn't use that today. It can do the whole BB King blues stuff. It can do, you know, what a Les Paul can do, but with an extra pickup and a Bigsby. It is heavy. I'm okay with that, but I would definitely, yeah, be concerned about that for some people who don't like heavy guitars. Nearly 11 pounds. Right, talking of weight, let's move on to a really light guitar, which is my Collings semi-hollow. I never remember the name. I-35 Vintage. I think that's what it's called. Now, this one plays quite differently. Yeah, it's got a proper sort of British blues tone, this, and if you put this into like a Marshall JTM type, you know, you get that really sort of woolly mid to late 60s sound, which I think is great. I wasn't expecting to buy a Collings when I found this guitar. You know, it's not a brand I thought about before, but I really wanted a semi-hollow, and I've owned quite a few different ones, including, you know, an original 61 with paths in it, and a 67 355, and a custom shop 59 355. And the custom shop Marcus King signature, but ultimately none of them did quite what I wanted, but this one is much closer to the sound in my head, so I love it for that. The pickups in here are made by Throwback, and they're based on some pickups that were found in a 64 SG, which is interesting. I might take them out one day and put them in my 64 SG reissue, but yeah, that was great fun. So far, what I like about the amp is it has got a character of its own, but actually each guitar sounds like itself. It sounds big in the room. I think it would sound more super reverby with the 4x10s. That's what you expect to hear, and it does have a sound which is not the same as a 2x12. So it is like that, but I'm hoping to get a 4x10 cab soon, actually. So we'll be able to sort of compare what a 2x12 and a 4x10 and a 3x10, which I've got, would sound like. Okay, two more guitars to go. There's a Strat and there is a Jazzmaster with humbuckers in doing some slide. So we'll finish with that. I know slide isn't everyone's cup of tea, and I'm not a great slide player at all. It's just something I enjoy doing in an open tuning. But yeah, today I've been playing this Strat a lot. This is the MB Strat. It's got a beautiful burst on it. It reminds me of the 63 Strat I used to own. And again, some bare pickups in this one. These are like custom A5, Alnico 5 pickups, I think. They've got really sort of fat, juicy sound and work great with fuzz. I'm not using fuzz here, but I've been filming a video earlier today, which will come out over the weekend or early next week, hopefully, where I'm playing that Strat with a fuzz face through 7 or 8 or 9 different amps, including this Two Rock Studio signature and the classic reverb that you can see behind me there, a Bartel Starwood, a JTM 45 from 1965, the Tone King Royalist, Magnatone Twilighter, and this Super Reverb, and the Tone Master Super Reverb. maybe, oh, and the 2 Rock Vintage Deluxe. So yeah, that's going to be really cool, I hope. So I've been playing this a lot today, and through both of those 2 Rocks and the Bartel, it sounded massive and fat. Somehow this setting for me just doesn't quite do it. It's a little bit nasal. So let me know what you think about this. Yeah, this MB Strat is so vintage in style. It even, like, the neck feels right compared to the real 63 I had. And then the look, the finish is just incredible. It's a step above almost anything else I've seen, because, you know, the custom shop and the master builders who I love, they sort of do this more hyper reality thing. It looks, you know, amazing. I love it, but it's really artsy. Whereas this one I find just looks like a real old guitar and feels like one to play in a way, which is funny. But yeah, those pickups are great because they stay clear even when you're using heavy fuzz, and I think that's what they're sort of designed for, because Stuart at Sunbear has a huge fuzz head. He owns a lot of fuzz pedals. Okay, look, the Super Reverb is an amp that continues to intrigue me. I've wanted one since I got back into playing guitar. I love the look of them, you know, I love the size of them, and I just think they have a very cool look, you know, just aesthetically. So it's an amp that I want to get fixed up so I can use it in its own combo properly. But in the meantime, this is an interesting way to play it through another cabinet. And I think every guitar has sounded great. The guitars have sounded like themselves, just with that sort of little Super Reverb X factor on them, I think. But I'm going to leave you here with this Jazzmaster doing a little bit of slide in open D. And this, I did have this fuzz face on, which is Charlie Pedals. It's an NKT Red Dot 275, which is a rare transistor type. It's a really cool fuzz pedal. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. It's just like really an exploration for me and for you of what these 6 guitars sound like through this amp. And I just want to get sort of more aware of what Super Reverbs do generally. And in the next video that I use it, I promise I will play with the settings. But for this one, I wanted to see what each guitar sounded like just with this randomly chosen setting from the internet. And the attenuators work really well because, you know, I could have happily sat here and played that at 110 decibels or whatever it would have been, but my ears would be not thanking me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, give it a thumbs up, please. And my Patreon details are in the description. I've been making tabs and lessons with videos, you know, licks and things. So if you're interested, you can check that out. Anyway, see you next time.
Tele.